going to need three things. Oh God. Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Margot and I'm a professional commercial artist. And today's video is going to be something that I've been trying to figure out for the longest time, and that's how to organize my watercolor collection so that I can find everything that I need within a couple of seconds. A little background as to why this is important for me is that I am both a full-time artist and entrepreneur. I'm a working mom, and I'm expecting a baby at the end of the month. So I don't have a ton of time to spend rustling around for my colors and finding things. And so one of the things that's been driving me crazy with my watercolor supply in general is having to, dump out all my colors, have to rummage through things to find exactly what colors I'm looking for. I get easily frustrated when I'm, in the middle of a project, in the middle of a painting, and I'm looking for that perfect color. I'm looking for that cadmium orange or something. And, I have to go into this little, buckets, whatever, and have to find it. And it takes time away from my process and that role that you get on when you're in the process of creating your art. So I devised a solution to this problem. And this solution is actually inspired by how I organize my gouache collection. What I do with my gouache paints is because gouache and the consistency of gouache is different from watercolor, and it's thicker and it's more buttery and more opaque. What I do is I actually put a little dab of my paint color on the cap of every tube and then store them so the caps are facing up. So when I'm looking for my paints, I get a bird's eye view of all of the colors that I have within my collection so that I can make a really quick and educated decision as to what color I want to pick up next and what goes well together, that kind of thing. So it speeds up my process. I've always wanted to do that for my watercolors. However, with watercolors, the consistency of the paints is different. So first of all, watercolors are translucent, they're not opaque, and they don't grip different materials like gouache does. So you can't just take a little bit of watercolor paint, put it on the cap, and have that stick there and be able to see what color that is. So what I figured out was a cool little trick or system to be able to label all of these. So by the time I'm done with this organization video, I will have all of my watercolor tubes labeled with the colors indicated on the caps of each. And I will show you exactly how I'm going to do that, because we're going to do it together. So let's get into the supplies of what we actually need. I have some scrap paper that I'm going to use, as well as a hole puncher. So this is a hole puncher that I have from my office. So any hole puncher will do. And then I have some glue dots. And these ones I also have from my business. And so I use glue dots sometimes for things like stationery, that kind of thing. And you can get them at the craft store. You can get them online, on Amazon. But they're just basic glue dots. And you can choose the circumference of, the diameter of these circles based on what your preference is. I have the standard hole puncher here. So I'm pretty sure that the sizes kind of are identical. If they're not, it's not the biggest deal in the world. You just don't want your glue dot to be that much bigger than your hole puncher diameter. What we are going to do is I'm going to just walk you through it before we start, is we're going to take a little bit of paint from a tube of watercolor and paint it onto a piece of paper. And then we're going to cut it out with our hole puncher and glue it to the lid. So pretty straightforward, but I can't believe it took me this long to figure out the system, but I think that this is really, really gonna help. So why don't we just jump right in and start doing, what do I have here? The warm colors. I have a little bit of tea first. And I'm typically a coffee drinker, but ever since my pregnancy, coffee was one of those weird things that I've just not been into at all. And it happened with my first pregnancy as well, where suddenly, coffee was off-putting. And, I wasn't doing it for health reasons or for, not wanting the caffeine or something. I just didn't like the smell and the taste of coffee. So hopefully my taste for coffee comes back after this baby is born at the end of the month. All right, so let's open up this quinacridone magenta. And I'm not even gonna bother with being put onto a palette. I'm just gonna get my brush and I'm just going to wet a little bit inside the cap, not inside the cap, inside the tube. And I'm gonna bring it to my paper. I'm just gonna paint a little square that's roughly, you know, a size that I think is gonna be larger than my hole puncher. And then I'm going to pick up maybe another color. Let's put this to the side. I'm gonna just clear off my desk to make sure that I'm not getting confused, because we don't want to label the wrong product, obviously. So I'm gonna grab another color, maybe in the same family, Transparent Purell Orange from Daniel Smith. And if it's a new tube, this is just sort of like a good thing to know. Make sure that you squeeze out the tube so that you don't have too much of the what do you call it? The binding agent at the top. So usually when you open up a new tube of watercolor, you have a lot of gum arabic or whatever, like, or honey or whatever it is, whatever the binding material is for these pigments. They'll usually deposit at the top. You'll have a lot of binding agent at the top. So you want to squeeze out as much of that. Usually it's clear. It's like a kind of clear, sticky material, and you want to get rid of that and just squeeze out into a napkin or something until you actually get to the paint itself, because that's going to make a difference, obviously, in how your colors appear. So I'm going to grab a little bit of the Transparent Purell Orange, create a little box with that. Oh, it's a really pretty color. These two colors go well together. This is really nice. I should do a painting with that. Okay, so I'm going to make sure that this dries fully. And then once it's dry, what we can do, so next up I'm going to take my hole puncher and punch a hole through that swatch I just made. Boop, just like that. And right here I have it right on my table. And then I'm going to cut out the second one. So now I have two perfect circles that are the quinacridone magenta and the Purell orange. So now that we have that, I have my glue dots that are from the craft store. And then I'm going to grab the tube of my quinacridone magenta and I'm going to transfer my glue dot to this cap. And usually you just give it a little rub with your fingernail or whatever. Peel it off. If it comes off, there we go. And then you just grab that little piece that you punched out and you glue it right there in your cap. And now you have a perfect indication of exactly what this color looks like painted on watercolor paper. And it is super convenient, and it makes it even better if you store all of your watercolors vertically, which I do. I've found these great little containers from Kuzmi Tea. The last time I bought some tea from Kuzmi Tea, I figured this is the perfect height for specifically Winsor & Newton and Daniel Smith's 5 milliliter paint tubes. So what I do is I just stack them here vertically. So what you'll get is a bird's eye view once everything has been labeled of all of your colors in your collection. You'll know exactly what everything is without having to go through and search for things and it take longer than it need to. And so I was thinking about what you do when you're done with a tube of paint and you're replacing it with a new one. And so for that, you can either just peel off the swatch that you made and glue it onto the new one. Or if it's the same brand, what you could do is just screw off the old cap and put the old cap on the new tube. You just have to label everything once and then you'll have everything you need to be able to continue the system, moving forward after that. Now that we know what to do with these, I'm going to jump in and I'm going to label everything else in my collection. So let's go. So I hope this video was useful and that you try it out. And if you have any organizational hacks or things that you do to be able to get your workflow to be more efficient, to be able to get things done faster, or just working smarter, not necessarily harder, let me know in the comments below, because I'm all about that stuff and trying to streamline the process so that we can get to the good stuff, which is creating art and not, having to go digging around for materials or be inefficient with how we do things. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the thumbs up button and to subscribe for more art content just like this. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.